Makkos Daf Tes Vov Amud Beis, educating versus intimidating, hatra'at safek. So we talked about the fact that yesterday that before the Torah gives us the punishment, the owner has to give us an Azhara. That Torah has to tell us that the thing is forbidden. And we discussed yesterday how that works into the whole philosophy of punishment and how we relate to it. In the same way, before a person can be punished for doing something against the Torah, he specifically needs to be warned. That's called hatra'ah. So Azhara is the Torah's general warning. This particular thing is forbidden. And hatra'ah is the witnesses or others say to the person as he's about to do the Avera, as he's about to transgress, they say, you're not permitted to do so. It's a law against the Torah. This is the law. And the consequence of this law is such and such a punishment. Only if he then immediately proceeds to do exactly what they warned him not to do, can he be punished. That's called hatra'ah. We have a principle in our Gemara of hatra'at safek. What happens in the case of a lav hanitak la'aseh, for example? That's not the only example, but it's one of them. We've talked about a lav hanitak la'aseh. That means there are certain transgressions which you can undo if you do something afterwards. The Torah actually gives you a remedy. So we have examples of that. You're not allowed to leave over from a korban. Each korban has a time limit as to by when it must be consumed. And you're not allowed to go beyond that time limit. There's also a mitzvah to eat it. So if you're running late, you can quickly eat what's left, and then there's no issur. Then there's no issur of nosa. There's the case of lo tikach ha'em al banim. If you see a mother bird and fledglings in a nest, you can't take them all together. Shalach to shalach, you've got to send the mother birds. If somebody takes them all together in their hand, at that point they're committing an avera. They're doing what the Torah says you shouldn't do. But they're not. It's not punishable yet because he still has an option. He can let the mother bird go. And if he lets the mother bird go, then he hasn't done an issur. So in such a case, if a person is matre, if a person says to him, you're not allowed to take the mother bird and the bird alone, does the person giving the hatra'ah, does the person giving the warning know for sure that he's not going to let the mother bird go? So at the time of the hatra'ah, the person being matre, the person issuing the warning, isn't 100% sure that this warning is even relevant. And there are many examples like that. A man that knows there are two men, and he knows one of them is his father, but he doesn't know which one. And he is about to murder one of them. And somebody is matre. You're not allowed to murder apart from murdering. There's the question of the father is about to smite one of them, is about to hit one of them. One of them is your father, that's an issur d'oraisa, but you don't know if he's going to hit the father or not. At the time that you're being matre, you don't know if he's going to hit the father. Until he hits both of them, there's no certainty. So these are called hatra'at safek, where the warning is in doubt. And our Gemara talks about b'mai kamifligi b'hatra'at safek, kamifligi whether hatra'at safek shma hatra'ah or lo shma hatra'ah. Is a questionable warning considered a warning, or isn't it considered a warning? So on this we have two interesting Rambams. We have a Rambam in Hilchot Sanhedrin in Perek Zayin, where the Rambam says, he goes through the whole case, and he says, Ein adam lokeh be'edim v'hatra'ah v'odkim ela be'edim v'hatra'ah. There's got to be proper warning, etc. Avar alav shenitak la'aseh v'yitru bo v'amru lo al ta'aseh davar zeh shim ta'asenu v'lo tekayem aseh shebo tilakeh. If it's a lav anitak la'aseh, it's one of these prohibitions attached to which there's a positive mitzvah that can undo, that is a remedy, and the person says, don't do this, don't take the mother bird and the fledgling, because if you do take them and you don't let the mother bird go, that would be an issur malchus, that would be a lo ta'aseh, a negative transgression. Afapi she hatra'ah b'safeki, that is a hatra'ah b'safek, is it not? Because when I warn you, I don't know whether you're going to let the mother bird go or not. Nevertheless, shim yikayim yipater, hatra'at safek hatra'ahi. The Rambam paskins clearly that even a warning that has a degree of doubt in it is a valid hatra'ah. It's a good warning. And then the Rambam says in Hilchot Shvuos in Perek Hey, and the beginning of Perek Hey, that if a person makes a shvuah and he says, Kol mi shenishba al achirim sheyasu kach v'kach, I make a shvuah, you know what? So-and-so is going to do such and such. I'm so certain of it that I'm willing to make a shvuah that this person, so-and-so, is going to drive to Tel Aviv today Are you sure? I'm totally sure. I swear, I'm absolutely sure. I'll give you a sure. That's what he's going to do. But he doesn't know if he's going to really. He doesn't know. She'ein biyado lo lekayim v'lo levatel. In such a case, he doesn't know. He doesn't get malchut. Why? V'lama ein lelochem mishum shvuat shav. Why is that not called the shvuat shav? You've made a shvuah that you have no control over. You don't even know what will be the outcome. Sharei efshar lo tamachim shishma'u mimenu v'titkayim shvuato. That person might actually go to Tel Aviv, and then he's done nothing wrong. He made a shvuah which turns out to have been true. And that means that the hatra'ah, when the warning was given, the warner couldn't have been sure that this was going to even be a prohibition, because the individual could still go to Tel Aviv. In such a case, it's hatra'at safek and ein lokin bo. There's no malkut for that. Etc. says the Rambam. So there's a lot of discussion. These two Rambams that are in conflict with one another. How does the Rambam paskin? What is the Rambam's decision? Is hatra'at safek shmei hatra'ah, as he says in Hilchos Sanhedrin, or there's no malkot on a hatra'at safek because it's not a valid hatra'ah, as he says in Hilchot Shvuot? There's a Tosfos in Ksubis, on the basis of which the Aruch LaNer explains the Rambam. There are lots of different approaches to the Rambam, but the using the Tosfos in Ksubis is particularly important. Where Tosfos says the Shani Hatam, he also makes a difference between different types of uncertain hatra'ot, warnings which cannot be made with 100% certainty. And he says, Deshani hatam shiyodeh bevadai shiyavo lidei isur im yotir o yakesh nehem. If the person says, if you don't eat your korban, you're going to come to in the right amount of time, you're going to commit a lo ta'aseh. The person now has all the knowledge he needs. If I don't eat the korban by 6 a.m. or 7 p.m., then I will be doing an Azhara. Now it's my question. I can choose to eat or not to eat. If I don't let the mother bird go, and I hold on to that, and let's say I damage the mother bird's wings, or I kill the mother bird as well as the fledglings, I know I've committed an issur. That's clarity. I have complete clarity. I still am free to decide whether or not to do the positive mitzvah. So the person giving the hatra'ah doesn't know what I'm going to choose, but I'm free to choose whichever way I want to. That's a valid hatra'at safek, says Tosfos. But in the case of the two men, and he's going to smite one of them, and he doesn't know if it's his father or it isn't, in that case, it's not in his hands at all. There is a safek inherently that he can't resolve himself any other kind of way. So that's how Tosfos distinguishes, explains the Aruch LaNer. The same applies in the Rambam's two cases. In the first case of the Rambam, where the Rambam says hatra'at safek is a hatra'ah, that's talking in a situation where the individual has complete information. If you do such and such, it will be a love. Or if you do not fulfill the mitzvah aseh, if you do wrong, and you do not correct it with the remedy the Torah gives you, you will be guilty of an offense in the Torah, the punishment for which is Malkot. That's a valid hatra'ah, because the one receiving that hatra'ah has all the information he needs for clarity. But if it's in the case of smiting the two men, or in the case, as the Rambam's talking about, a shvu'ah, where I take a shvuah that so-and-so is going to go to Tel Aviv, how can the hatra'ah be a certain hatra'ah? What am I going to say to you? Do you know that if he doesn't go to Tel Aviv, then this is an Isur Lav, then you've just committed an Isur Lav. What are you doing? And what the beauty of the Aruch LaNer is, because it's a principle in education. What is the problem with that hatra'ah? A man comes along and he says, he's about to make a shvuah. And the shvuah is, I'm going to say for sure that Robbie is going to Tel Aviv today. I know for sure I'm taking a shvuah. Somebody says, be careful, don't make a shvuah. Because if he doesn't go to Tel Aviv, then you've got a shvuah sheker, you've got or a shvuah shav, you've committed an avera in the Torah, and it's not in your hands to do anything about it. Says the Rambam, that's not a valid hatra'ah. Why not? Let's take the Aruch LaNer one step further to understand it clearly. Because that's only scaring me. There's nothing I can do about it. What must I do about it? You've just told me that I'm going to get into trouble if Robbie makes a certain choice or doesn't make a certain choice over which I have no control. So in what way does it help me? If you give me a hatra'ah and you say, unless you let that mother bird go, you will be doing an avera d'oraisa, I have the choice now to let the mother bird go or to do the avera. That means you've educated me. You've given me clarity of consequence. and I'm now in a position to make an informed choice over which I have control. That's a hatra'ah. And we get into, we understand the meaning of hatra'ah better. There's a Reb Shimon Shkop in Ksubis and Siman Lametet, which are bringing the sources, where he says, in passing on another issue altogether, Delo mahani hatra'at safek hu rak li'inyan shogeg lemezid, dechol echa sheoseh aveira hu mesupak bi'isur eino mezid gamur. The issue about a hatra'ah, about warning, is to clearly differentiate between doing something deliberately and doing something with an element of shogeg, an element of error. And the idea of hatra'ah is to make sure that there's no element of error, because we don't punish people if they're making mistakes. We only punish them if it's 100% deliberate. And says the Reb Shimon that's the purpose of hatra'ah. And if that's the purpose of hatra'ah, then a hatra'at safek, if I'm giving you a hatra'ah over which you have no real control, I never know for sure whether it's deliberate. I can always say, I really was sure that Rabbi was going to Tel Aviv. Had I known that he might not go to Tel Aviv, I wouldn't have made the shvur. I always have that option to explain. That's not a proper mazid, says Reb Shimon. That's not proper deliberateness. Deliberateness is, I know all the information, and with the information, I'm choosing to do wrong. And the hatra'ah is there to give you all the information. So if I make the decision to do wrong with all the information, that's a mazid. That's a proper mazid. A hatra'at safek is not a full mazid. But I want to take it a step further, because there's something that bothers me in the whole sugya. There's so much discussion in the Acharonim about this idea of hatra'at safek, and one of the things that to me is really important, which most don't talk about, is the term hatra'at safek. The doubt is in the gray area. The doubt is in the area of the hatra'ah. It's not in the area of the person who's doing it. It's in the mind of the matre, not the mutra, as we say. In other words, where is the sofek? The way we've learnt it with Aruch LaNer, based on the Tosfos, is that the problem is that the mutra, the person who has been warned, doesn't have absolute clarity. He doesn't have control over whether Rabbi is going to Tel Aviv or not, so he can't be 100% deliberate, and therefore it's called the hatra'at safek. But if the hatra'at safek is one like, there's a nitach la'aseh, I don't know whether you're going to let the mother bird go, but it's in your hands, you have all the information, then the mutra, the person who has been warned, has clarity of knowledge. He has all the information he needs. That's the way we're learning it. But the idea of hatra'at safek is there is something doubtful in the hatra'ah itself. And what I would suggest to look at, and just to take this idea of the Aruch LaNer and the Tosfos a step further and say, what's happening here also is, can the warner really know that if the person doesn't adhere to his warning, the individual is going to do something wrong? That's the real issue. So if I say, be careful, because Rabbi has the choice not to go to Tel Aviv, and then it's going to be a shvuat shav. So when I'm giving the warning, am I telling this person to be really careful? Because I know the reason I'm intervening is because if I don't intervene, there will be a shvuat shav, there'll be a terrible thing. I don't know that, because maybe Rabbi will go to Tel Aviv and there won't be anything. However, if I say to the person, if you don't let the mother bird go, this will be an Issur d'Oraisa, this will be a Torah prohibition, I know that for sure. What I'm saying is complete authority. I'm teaching you something, I'm telling you something which I'm absolutely certain of. And there is a difference resonance when somebody tells somebody something they're certain of, as opposed to somebody who tells something which maybe it's an opinion. It's a difference between an opinion and knowledge. When you impart knowledge to somebody, it comes with a different resonance. I've told you before about the research that has been done at MIT by Otto Scharmer and others, that the difference in outcome when two leaders do the same thing in the same circumstance but come from a different inner place. What is the deep inner motivation impacts the effect that has on other people. You're leading a team or you're leading a nation, it doesn't make a difference. When it comes from different inner places, you can measure the difference in impact. Impact is not only a function of what you do and how you do it. Impact is also a function of an invisible, unmeasurable inner place from which you come. When you come from an inner place of opinion, my opinion is that Robbie might not go to Tel Aviv, in which case you're in real trouble. That's an opinion. But if I say to you the halacha is that if you don't release the mother bird, you will be doing an Issa Doraisa. That's not an opinion. I'm teaching you a piece of Torah. I'm a teacher, not an influencer. Influence is now the in word, isn't that? An influence is I have an opinion, I'm trying to influence you to adopt my opinion. That's not an Azhara. That's not a hatra'ah. A hatra'ah is I'm teaching you. Hatra'ah is education. Hatra'ah is I'm sharing something with you which I know. Where do I know it from? I know it from the Torah. This isn't an opinion. It's something completely different. And that's even to some degree explicit in the words of the Rambam, because the Rambam says, Ela im ken, it's a hatra'at safek, and as a hatra'at safek doesn't have power. אלא אם כן היה לאו שבו מפורש בתורה, כמו שהתברר בהלכה. Unless it's mefurish in the Torah, says the Rambam. And that's the key. If I'm warning you about something that's mefurash in the Torah, yes, there might still be choice. You can choose to let the mother bird or not let the mother bird. But what I'm teaching you is 100% sure. I have no doubt about what I'm teaching you. I'm teaching you that the consequence of not letting the mother bird go is an Issa D'Oraisa. Of that I'm certain. That's a hatra'ah. It comes from an inner place of certainty. It comes from an inner place of knowledge. And it's not coming from an inner place of, I have an opinion and I would like you to adopt my opinion. I would like you to influence that. And that's an important principle to bear in mind when we communicate outwards and when we receive communication. When we communicate outwards, am I teaching something that I'm sure of? I'm sure of because I know where it comes from. It comes from a Masorah of teachers. It comes from a place a long time ago. It comes from teacher who learned it from teacher who learned it from teacher. It comes from clear pshat in a Rashi, in a Tosfos, in a Rambam. Am I sharing something with you that I'm certain of? I'm sharing Torah, or am I giving you an opinion? And one has to clarify which one it is, so that one is clear in one's own mind and that the receiver of the communication is clear. And likewise, when we're getting communication, when we're told something, whether it's in a journal or in the news or by another individual, is this person sharing an opinion with me, or is this person telling me something they know? Because it's a completely different response that is required from being taught something that somebody knows, if there's somebody that has reputation, that has authority, or by being told something that they have an opinion about. The importance of this sugya of hatra'at safek is when the warner is not 100% sure of the accuracy of what he's saying and the inevitability of what he's saying, it's an opinion. And it's fine, you're giving somebody opinion. I don't think you should do this. In my opinion, it's risky. It's fine. You've shared with the other person that in your opinion it's risky because Robbie might not go to Tel Aviv. Nothing wrong with it, but it's not a hatra'ah. A hatra'ah is when I share with you something that I know for sure, putting you in a position where you have all the information you need to make an informed decision. Hatra'ah is not threatening. Hatra'ah is not influencing. Hatra'ah is not sharing an opinion. Hatra'ah is educating.